Welcome to Raging Bullets, a comics fan podcast, Season 2, Episode 29. We begin our look at Absolute DC.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant covers. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what we're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding!
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the spectacular sensei of the Whatnot Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be talking about Absolute Superman #1 and Absolute Wonder Woman #1. We're going to be back next week with Absolute Batman 1 and 2. And that was done deliberately because I've actually read Absolute Batman 2, and I really want to talk about that issue. So we're going to delay that conversation for 1 week so we can talk about both of those books. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Aquaman #1, 50% off, $199, plus as well as multiple really cool-looking variants that are up to 40% off. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they have some really good deals of the week. They have the Azadora graphic novel Volume 8, $16.99 regularly, 40% off, only $10.19. Justice League of America. This is part of that new DC's Finest line, The Bridge Between Earths. $39.99 regularly, 55% off, only $17.99. The Fantastic Four Omnibus hardcover Volume 5, $125 regularly, 46% off, only $67.50. They have two different covers for that one. Green Lantern Corps by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. This is a great run. $150 regularly, 50% off, only $75. Jill and the Killers trade paperbacks, $19.99 regularly, 40% off, only $11.99. And Scalped Omnibus hardcover volume 1, $75 regularly, 50% off, only $37.50. If you haven't read Scalped, that's an amazing series. There's actually a lot of great books in omnibus and collected format that I would highly recommend. I am really digging these omnibuses that are coming out. Just a lot of comics for really a cost-effective price in a really, really deluxe collections. So I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Oh, this is the extreme sensei of the Whatnot, and Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth and do plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
You okay? That sounded like it hurt. Let's talk some comics.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
Our first discussion is going to be on Absolute Superman #1. Jason Aaron is the writer. Rafa Sandoval is the artist. Ulysses Areola on the colors. Becca Carey on the letters. Rafa Sandoval and Ulysses Areola on the cover. Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair. Wes Craig and Mike Spicer. Clayton Crane and Matteo Scalera on the variant covers. Ash Padilla is the assistant editor. Chris Conroy is the group editor. Special thanks to Raphael Albuquerque. Superman, of course, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And this part 1 is called Down in the Dirt. So, just initial impressions. Absolute Superman. This is we're going to be talking about all 3 of these books. But seeing this is going to be the first one we're talking about, was this what you expected, and what are your thoughts?
Okay, 1 was not what I expected, and 2, it was awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say that statement for all 3 of the absolutes. Mm-hmm. Was not what I was expecting, and I loved it. It's funny. The only thing I've got an issue with, and I got an issue on all three of them, the absolute in front of it. It's a weird. I can't come up with a better adjective that I would use, but it's just like absolute's been used so many times in comic book universe that I'm like more intelligent people than me. I thought could come up with something different.
Here's the problem.
I came up with is horrible, and I'll tell you right now. I'm going to qualify. My idea is horrible, but extreme is the best thing I came up with. For all three of these, and that because it's. To me, these are like the ECW of the comic book versions of these characters, and that's why I started throwing out extreme, just because.
But hasn't there been like an extreme?
That same earthy grind that I loved about ECW. I got that same kind of feeling from this one as well as from all the other ones as well.
Because there's been an extreme X-Men. I guess that's why I don't love the extreme piece.
Yeah, me neither.
Over there. Different doesn't work for me either. Because it just seems kind of like you're diminishing it versus absolute feels big. I think that's one. And traditionally at DC, absolute means big. So I guess I'm seeing that point. I get what you're saying because like you, I guess my only issue with calling it absolute, if I had one, was that I tie that into these wonderful, oversized collected editions that they do that I think are just fantastic. And I like that being the branding for that and really quite enjoy it. Other than that, I don't really have an issue with the name per se. Because you can't really call it Ultimate because Marvel's already done that.
Yeah, I know.
So I think they really had to go with something that was in their brand wheelhouse. I'm struggling to find a better word, but I get your point, and I do think there's some validity to it. As far as I kind of want it to be something different, but that's I guess for me it's more of a minor thing. But I think you're making a good point.
And for me, it's a minor thing as well because again, I couldn't come up with something either that was good. And like you said. The stuff that like the Ultimate, or any of those, Marvel's taken those names and they already ran with them. So I'm like,
right.
I'm like, what can they go with it? I was killing myself trying to come up with something. So like you, as you said, it's absolute is they needed something, and that does have a good solid reputation in DC as absolutes are amazing. And I'll tell you, I loved this story. It's the Elseworld. They didn't make it a black label brand. But it is still it's an alternate telling of Superman. And Bats and Wonder Woman. And this is still a great Superman story. And I think the last when we talked the long time ago about the other alternate Batman that neither one of us liked Batman because he didn't feel like Batman. Mm-hmm. This still feels like Superman. Mm-hmm. There's still those Superman moments. There's still those qualities that had me going, there's the big blue. And I love how his journey to Earth is much different. His interactions with humans are much different. So for me, that was like, something that was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And as the story's unfolding, you're seeing more and more of the differences. And I was like, this is a really neat Superman story being told. This is a great Kal-El story. Now, I'm the guy who loves Clark Kent. Mm-hmm. So, you tell me if I had known ahead of time that, we're not going to have any Clark Kent at all in this, I would have been like, oh, man,
is that for sure? Like, well, I understand what you're saying, but the Kent farm and that type of thing, we saw the condition it's in this book. And we could talk about that right now. But I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. I guess more what I'm saying is I don't know that there's an exclamation point on no Clark Kent. But yet I'm with you as far as what's the pathway for that. It's going to be very interesting to see where this story ends up going. Is this going to be a world that has no Clark Kent? And it's a possibility, what you're saying. I'm hoping, I guess I'm wondering with what the devastation we see of the Kent farm. Because this seems to be part of the theme of this, right? It's a Superman from the very, very backbones of the core of the lore. Like, Krypton is different. This is not the same Krypton, even. So this is a child who's left a very, very different Krypton at a very different age than we're used to, with parents that are in a very different place. They're similar, and I'm going to put quotes around that, but because Krypton is such a different environment here, it very much leads to a very different world. He's also a Clark that has gone to a different Earth. It is a very different Earth. That to me this one was my favorite out of the batch. And when I say that, that sounds like I'm diminishing the others. I walked into this expecting, I'm a Batman guy. I expected Batman to be hands down my favorite. I've read 2 issues of Batman, and I'm not going to go spoiler on issue 2 because we're only talking about issue 1, but I've read 2 issues of it. Like you, I'm a fan of Absolute Batman. I'm used to seeing Batman Elseworlds. I think where the Absolute title works off of this one, and at least it had to be something other than like Elseworlds Superman or Elseworlds Batman, you had to show that this is a different premise. And the different premise is this is ongoing. The idea behind this is meant to be an ongoing Superman series. And I hope it is, because they are developing something here that is very intriguing. I also am really clear after reading all 3 of these, and like you, I want to continue on with all 3 of these. Like you, I enjoyed them. I think one of the things I like about it so much is I don't want them to be regular continuity. Like, I didn't read this and go, I want this to be the mainline Superman. But I want it to be around. Like, I want this to be something viable, intriguing, and interesting, and then to continue this exploration and for it to be this uniquely crafted world. And I really like what they're doing here. That part works for me. I'm glad that here's what I'm glad that they didn't do. I'm glad this isn't a DC reboot. Like, I'm glad the All-In initiative is like, let's have creators have fun with this, but let's do it without rebooting our universe yet again.
No, yeah, and I agree with you on that. And again, it's funny, as you were talking, I was just nodding my head along with you. Yes, yes, yes. You know, I love that this is a whole new Superman story, that we're getting new lore, we're getting new Krypton, his parents, everything. It's from ground up, it's different, but they didn't reboot anything. Yeah. This is just existing, coinciding with, the current DCU. Nothing's changed on Clark. This doesn't affect Clark. It's, this is a really great story. And again, it's well crafted, and it's again the nice layering on how this Superman is different than the one we know and love, we're used to. This is a much different person, and I love that we're getting a piece here and a piece here and a piece there. And the reason I said no Kent family was because that farm is completely it's destroyed. Yeah. So to me, Kal-El didn't land at the Kent farm because the Kent farm was already gone. Right. The Lazarus Company bought it up. They probably bought up all of the Smallville property, and they probably have all the Smallville property, and it's the corporate-run farms and whatnot. So it's kind of interesting that in this universe, Clark is a farmer on Krypton, but not a farmer on Earth. Or is he? Who knows? He seems like he's a traveler, so he's probably been farmers on different parts of the world. But it's kind of interesting just how, again, we still have the farming elements, the farm aspects, because that Kansas farm boy is such a locked into who Clark is. And then, so you don't see any possibility of the Kryptonian farmer adopting a Kansas farmer identity as his way to hide out. Could be. Very easily could be. That's to me the potential link to it. I don't wait, and let me flip it the other way. I think you're posing an interesting premise. What if Clark Kent doesn't happen here? So I think that premise is intriguing. So I'm nodding along with you as you're saying it. What I'm trying to throw out there is, though, I don't know that I feel that, like, there's no way we're going to get a Clark Kent in here. I think there may be a way. I also find I could see very much, and this is where I really trust the writer, I could see very much finding an intriguing way to just not go there. I mean, and that's okay, too. Because, man, we should probably start, if you don't mind, we should probably start talking about Krypton. Because I think at its core, this is where this book starts. And for me, that was where I just got this idea that, like, wow,
This is really different because they're going all the way back to the roots of this. This isn't a Clark crash landed somewhere different is the only change. The Clark's lore from the ground up is completely different. The classes in Krypton and the way that they're set up and structured are very, very different. We've got the science class, and I love that they've got that sun on their chest that we're used to seeing in the classic, like, Silver Age-y Superman comics on Jor-El. You know, like, that is the, like, they're pulling from lore here and bringing it in. But these clerics, they're like this elite, this ruling class. And if you are not among them, boy, is your life a lot different on Krypton. Like, a lot of times Krypton is, shown as being like almost like Camelot, in its presentation. Yes, there's some flaws and things like that, especially with General Zod and people like that. But you get the idea that there's a certain element of it being like an advanced society. That's here too. But man, their class system is really, really in and out.
Yes.
You're either in or you're out. And if you make the wrong choices, you say the wrong things in the wrong audiences, you could go from being someone who was going to be in to someone who is permanently out, which is what's happening to Jor-El here. And I love this, just the way this opening thing works. And we get to see that S symbol is not hope.
No.
That S symbol is, you're steel because of the fact that you're dealing with farming and a lot of the underground stuff.
And again, you think about it because Jor-El wasn't the head of the science.
Yeah.
The people who were running the science were looking past, any environmental impact that they had. And it was funny, both Lara and Jor-El both had comments against the way the society's treating the planet, the way it's destroying their own planet that cost them to lose all of their station. They're not labor guild. They're no longer science. They're no longer the elite. And I love the fact that they were, again, Jor-El was right. No one listened to him, and that's what causes the downfall of Krypton. Yeah. And in this world, it's even more extreme because they didn't have even Jor-El tempering what they were doing. They were digging deep into the planet core, really messing up stuff. So it was kind of a neat thing to see how, without Jor-El at the helm, things were even worse for Krypton.
Yeah. I like seeing her doing all the repairs in the beginning.
Yeah.
And kind of getting the idea that she's very competent, and you can see how they have a very complementary relationship. I actually really like that our focus in the beginning is more her than him. It made me like, I'm very used to wanting to see Jor-El right from the get-go. Starting with Lara, I think, was a really, really good choice. We got to know about Jor-El through that interaction, but also got to know a lot about her. This is a very different Lara than we've seen portrayed previously. I get the strength. I really like her as a character out of the gate. I'm glad that this issue isn't going to be the only one where we're exploring Krypton. I'm glad that this wasn't a quick Cliff Notes version of what happened on Krypton. We're going to at least get a couple issues surrounding what happened there. The more the merrier. I want to know more about this world and what's happening. So I don't know how long Clark was actually still on Krypton beforehand, but the story they're telling so far on Krypton is just as interesting to me as the story we get to on Earth.
Yes. Oh, God, yeah. And again, you always love seeing, the bullies, for lack of a better term, eventually get their comeuppance.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's at the cost of the entire planet that these people are going to learn. So, you sit there and you want to see the destruction of the planet. You want to see what happens to these different people. These people who have, pushed aside the actual intelligent people who have the right ideas for their own their own objective, their own goals, their own greed. And it's, continues on. You see when Clark is on Earth. Well, I keep calling him Clark. He's not. He's Kal-El. When Kal is on Earth, the greed and the corruption and just the assault on Earth's natural resources, its minerals, how it's destroying the planet. So I do love just this whole comparison, because that was always another neat thing about Krypton, that Cal came from this utopia, but they didn't learn. And it's always a message that Superman brings to Earth, saying, hey guys, you got one planet, you don't want to destroy it.
The story behind the suit is really great, because we see the origins of the suit on Krypton. Mm-hmm. And it's being worn by his father. I mean, yeah. I really like how that's playing out in this, because to me, when you're going to make a change to such an iconic costume, and you're going to do something like this kind of storytelling is what I want from that. Like, I want there to be more of a reason other than just look pretty. This really has a very functional purpose. It also explains, why it's resilient to destruction and those kind of pieces. It's an adaptable suit. And I really like that. I mean, it's when I saw him wearing it, I'm like, I wonder. And I immediately, the first time I saw it on Jor-El, whether that warning instability alert, evacuate mine immediately, that type of thing. I went and looked back to the cover, and I'm like, oh, I think that's what Clark's wearing.
I know, me too.
And I'm like, this is really cool. I'm like, I like the backstory behind the suit already. They're like nabbing me on this one. So page turn after page turn over this, none of the changes bothered me because of the fact that they weren't done for like shock and awe. There's a story being told here. This is a fully realized Krypton. The more we get of Krypton, the better to me, because I find that understanding this society is going to help me understand this Superman more in all the right ways.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of like when they had that. When Clark was wearing more of a battle armor, not the cloth costume that his mom made, for that period. And I really liked it because, again, it's an alien-looking suit. I really dig this battle armor or industrial armor or whatever you want to call it, work gear, But that was something I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm digging that, And I really do like that the big S isn't the House of L symbol.
Right.
It's the Labor Guild symbol. And I like that. I thought that was something that was kind of neat as well. That, because always the big S was the House of L. Well, not anymore. It's not, because the House of L isn't a house, really. They're people, but they're not anything of significance. This is the Labor Guild. This is all the different minions are where the big red S now. So again, it's kind of a neat changeover on what that means.
We were the people of steel.
Yeah.
We wore it with pride, even though we were the bottommost class. I really like that concept because, how does he become the Man of Steel? Well, it's inherent in just the culture of ththat symbol meant something to them. It meant that, we deliver on another level. We work our butts off, and doing the things that nobody else will. We keep the engine going. It's a work ethic thing. I found myself really liking every time, like when we eventually encounter Jor-El, and Jor-El's very concerned about what's going to happen to the planet, or in this case, what's going to happen with this mine, I should say. Yeah. And he's pointing it out, and in his role, he's saying, "Listen, I cannot, in good conscience, have anybody down here doing this." Because there's a danger here, and he's standing his ground. I like the integrity there. He is willing to stand up to a blatant superior there, but because it's his role, it's the right thing to do. This is my job. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm seeing a problem, and if I cave here, I firmly believe I'm risking people's lives. Mm-hmm. And that's why he's shutting it down for right now until we know what's going on here and we get some stability in place. I really liked how that all played out and led to, the Rumble and everything happening. And that's Kryptonite, right? Coming through when the crack opens up. Is that our first?
Like it.
Yeah, our first viewing of Kryptonite.
First viewing of Kryptonite completely dissolves the guy from League of Middle Management. Bye-bye. Nice. Yeah. But again, it's again really cool usage of just the destruction of it. And again, adding to the lore of what Kryptonite will do to him, but also then you flip the page and you're on Brazil. You know, and you're just like, okay, it's like that was before, now is now. Like, oh, cool, what's going on here? And great usage of the power of the page flip.
Wait, like 12 pages in, I think, or something like that?
Yeah.
We're now getting to Earth.
Yeah.
Earth today. I really liked the amount of page count they gave to Krypton before heading here. I think it just worked. I was so ready at this point to see Superman. My only worry was, I hope we get back to Krypton because I want to see that too. So they did a really good job of keeping Krypton like gripping. Like I wanted to read the next chapter of Krypton. This Brazil piece is really well done because we're, especially with its parallels to Krypton, we're dealing with people that are being oppressed in mines. I like that he's been doing this, like kind of every so often going around and helping, and it's been unexplained. People don't like the peacekeepers. Or, obviously we're going to our Peacemaker in our time. I really like that their costumes are related to him and, to DC lore. But I like that Clark's helping them out, still hasn't figured out how to interact with this world and what his role should be. I also like that he feels very alien. Mm-hmm. Like he has not been raised as a human. He's coming here. He's seeing some injustice. He's seeing some opportunity to do something, and it clearly relates to his roots. So he's trying to make the whole situation right, and I really like how that piece is playing out. Because of the fact that he wasn't raised by the Kents and he didn't have the Earth upbringing that we're used to seeing. At least I think. He hasn't. I don't know what. I know he wasn't raised by the Kents, by the way, but he hasn't had this like Earth upbringing as far as we know. I really like how this plays out with him.
Oh God, yeah. And again, he mines all that stuff. He mines all the diamonds for the miners. I'm assuming he's the one who cleaned up the carcinogenic snow, right?
I think so.
Okay. We both read that correct the same way.
Yeah.
Because I read it that he's the one who took care of all that stuff. He did the mining for him, but even then, it's again the greed of the corporation. They're like, they did what they wanted, but wait, we want more. We want more. And I really loved how, as this is playing out, as this is going through, you do see the Superman there. You do see. He may not have the Kent family raised, but he does know right from wrong. He doesn't completely understand society, but he knows what the truth is. So again, that was something I really liked about this. Plus, this is he looks like a younger Superman than, so this is the beginning of, probably more of Superboy kind of era, but it is kind of neat seeing this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's something that's really neat to see with the character. There's so much I'm enjoying with it. I like his interactions. I like when he's asking the question, how do you know which is the truth? I've seen a lot of places like this, industries that run on suffering. How do you know which is the truth? I love that. When you have what is worth fighting for, that is the truth. When you have what is worth fighting for. Man, I love that. And Clark's come back with, but what if you have nothing?
Yeah.
He's trying. I like that he's trying to understand, trying to make connections, trying to relate to these worlds, and does not have context. He's lost everything. That part is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
The peacemaker, the peacekeepers, who are like just really oppressing the people. I really like that Clark gets to a point. Kal-El. I'm sorry, I keep calling him Clark. He's not Clark. We keep calling him
Clark. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I like that Kal-El gets to the point where he's kind of through circumstance has to expose him, has to get out there in the open and has not recharged. I'm very interested to learn more about what his powers look like here and what this recharging bit's all about. We know that our Superman, that is like a battery recharging from the sun. This Superman seems really, really powerful, but needs do you think he needs the sun? Is it seeming like he needs the sun more than our Superman?
Well, here's where I was thinking about this.
Okay.
So our Superman, as a kid, spent all his time on a Kansas farm just being a kid out in the open, and his body was just naturally sort of absorbed all that energy. This Kal-El never had that base battery, where it just is natural slow build.
Yeah.
So with him, he doesn't have the same kind of levels that our Superman has, because he hasn't had that much time just soaking in the sun. Especially if he's, he seems like he hides more to the shadows, and he does more, he's not out in the open. So if he's, sticking to the shadows, again, he's not getting a full charge.
Yeah.
He's recharging basically at night, or, just not in full light. So he's not going to have that same kind of level. So that's why I'm thinking he's got a little bit different. I think after, if he had a period where he could just soak in the sun, spend a little bit of time charging up, he would get to the levels that, we're used to seeing. And that could be something that comes down the line in the story as he's more in the public, more out and about, more, doing what he does. He could start getting stronger, getting more powers.
Yeah. I like the part where he says, I've gotten tired of running. I guess how much of that is, again, kind of building on your point, what does hiding look like for him? What is he doing in order to stay hidden? It's an interesting sort of place. He keeps mentioning this world. I guess I wonder, has he been to others already? Or is this, he just knows this world is different than Krypton? I'm very curious about that, because it could be as simple as that. It could be just that he's referring to this world because he came from Krypton. I really like that if you look around his forearms and his ankles, the way that the suit seems to show some kind of solar powered energy in it. I think it's a neat look and something different, for the character that just seems to really work. Again, an example of something I would not want to see this main continuity. I love it here.
Yes, agree. Completely agree with you, and I'm glad they didn't do the white and black suit, that we see when he's in his recovery mode.
Yeah.
I'm glad they went with this, and again, like you, I'm glad there's that connection to this is what the Labor Guild wore when they're going into the mines. So this is a protective suit that his father and mother would slap on him when he goes to leave Krypton. This would make sense that they're like, hey, this is the best. This is the most protection we can give the kid. Lock and load and rock and roll. So I did like that kind of stuff. And again, I also want to know who is the
voice.
His sidekick. The voice that the computer. I'm assuming it's an AI kind of program that's was with him to keep him alive. But I'm wondering if that's going to end up being in the future, turning into the Fortress, turning into something.
Skeets.
Yeah, Skeets.
No, I was thinking it's some variation of the robot we see in the Fortress, but I'm actually really what I'm liking here is anything where I assume it might be something from traditional lore. Even if it is, I'm assuming it's going to have some major twist to it. And I like the mystery and surprise. It could be something very different at this point, and I'd be very happy. I'm glad he has something, because him being alone like this, I don't know that it would work. It's I think that the alien or the robotic intelligence, or I'm assuming it's a robot, right? I'm assuming whatever that intelligence is there to help him. I hope it's not the Eradicator.
I know. That's you wonder, is this the birth of the Eradicator?
Yeah. It's only because this world cannot take any more of a beating than it's already getting with Lazarus. I like how Lazarus is being set up as, this corporation that cares nothing for the people. It's giving Clark something to fight at first. Yeah. I wonder if this is. I wonder who's running Lazarus, and is it Luthor?
See, I don't think it's Luthor.
I'd be fine if it wasn't.
Because when you get to first off, before we get to that, I love the fact that it's Lane who is Agent Lane, right. Suspect in custody. I love that, and I love the fact that she's the first one to call him Superman. So once again, Lois Lane is the one who names him Superman. I love that. That made me cheer. But then you flip a couple pages, and we see the Nevada desert, and we see the Lazarus R&D department, and that entity that's there. That looks like Brainiac to me.
Oh, it is Brainiac.
So, is Brainiac only in R&D, or is Brainiac running Lazarus, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, see, I guess I was taking it as, so you're asking a great question. I was taking it as Brainiac's in R&D, and we haven't seen the person who's running it yet.
Okay.
But I might be wrong. Maybe Brainiac's running the whole thing. There's some things before this Brainiac piece I actually want to talk about, but before we get to that, I want to talk about that Brainiac scene, because I thought Jeff Johns did an amazing job of making Brainiac creepy.
Yeah.
Here's what he didn't do. He didn't take it to this level. Kill us,
God, no.
Please kill us.
Please kill us, yes.
The nightmare of being caught in a bottled city? Wow. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and who knows if those are alien worlds, or if that's just this world, or what's going on there. That, again, further creep factor going on with Brainiac.
Was that explosion that Clark did with his powers? Was that a variation on the explosion that we saw Jeff Johns introduce? Was that Johns and Donner? Was that run?
Yeah.
Where they introduced that? Am I getting the timeline right?
Yes, you're right on that, but I thought that was heat vision.
You think that's just flat out heat vision?
Yeah.
Because it's coming from his eyes? I'm just more the sheer power level of it. So his heat vision just operates differently here.
Well,
or is it that our Clark holds back?
Clark holds back. Clark has had training. You think back to some of the great stories when Clark first heat vision pops up.
Yeah.
You know, he's terrified to go out, and it's Ma and Pa Kent helping him learn to keep calm and control it. I think there was one version that the big glasses he had was from the ship. From the ship to protect, so the blast doesn't blare out. I thought there was one version of it that said that. So this read like this was his heat vision that he has no control over.
Maybe you're right, Soul. Is Soul the name of the robot intelligence?
Yeah, maybe.
I guess that was a piece I didn't know if that was actually the name. But Lois captures him, right? Isn't that how we wrap up with that sequence? He's tentatively captured by Lois.
Yeah, well, she's cuffed him, but I don't think they've got those aren't like power dampeners.
Yeah.
And she's just handcuffed herself to him.
Right.
So if he can jump or fly or do something, he's taking Lois with him.
And we don't know any of that yet. Like, we haven't seen any leaping tall buildings or flying or any of that kind of stuff. I like that. I like that part.
And he's talking, and he says, "Let's get out of here." So this was a bad idea. I don't really feel so great. Let's get out of here. So maybe Saul can get him out of there somehow. And he's going to be taking him and Lois. So adding on to the lore of Lois Lane and Kal-El.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about the property of Lazarus Corps with the Kent farm. And I guess for myself, I wasn't seeing it at first as... I was seeing it as, I didn't see the Kents being involved, but what I saw is maybe this, at some point in time, Clark takes this over, or Kal-El takes this over, I should say. But I'm just as intrigued. It's funny, the more this conversation's gone on, I'm just as intrigued with what you're proposing. What if there's no Clark? Like, what if there is no pathway to Clark? What if this is foreshadowing the fact that the Kents just aren't a part of this? I find that intriguing too. So I'm not stuck on a one way or another. I think you're posing an interesting possibility that I think is very, very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that'd be kind of neat. Because just looking at the farm, it's completely desolate. It's destroyed, and even the farmland around it looks not like good.
Yeah.
So now one of the things, again, I did love that final scene. We get to see Clark as a little boy with his parents.
Yeah.
Which is something that we don't normally see. Well, Clark's never had that. And of course, right next to him is Crypto. So we've got, the whole family there. So it's kind of neat that this version of, Kal-El has a family connection with his parents.
Now, here's the thing. They're not ready to ship him off yet. How long does he stay there?
Well,
because we're seeing, the hiss of the, that kind of bursting on through.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, at that age right now, he's leaving. If you were to leave tomorrow from that sequence right there, he's still leaving older than we're used to.
Yeah.
With a relationship with his parents that is much more established than not knowing them like on Earth. And in our traditional storytelling, I like this difference. I think it's something that's very cool, and it's something you can do when you're going this route with this kind of story. This really stood out for me. Plus, he looks kind of cool with that outfit on. The S and things like that. I'm very worried about the dog.
Yeah, we don't see any sign of Crypto yet, so yeah. I don't know if he makes it with them. But again, you never know. But it's one of the interesting things that did pop in my head, again, just thinking long-term story, and because this Clark has this relationship with his parents, and he knows, they laid out the pretty good groundwork that the mom wanted to be an astronaut, father is super brainy scientist, so how they build it. They've got the knowledge and the experience to build a rocket ship. But the question I do want to see is them building the rocket ship. And it makes more sense why only Clark gets launched, because they're the bottom of the bottom. This is going to be a patchwork rocket ship. This isn't going to be one of those that fine crystal looking thing that we see in the show. Plus, I also wonder what happens with Supergirl. If the House of L is not the top of the top, are we not going to have a Supergirl on our planet because the family couldn't do another rocket?
I don't know. It's all intriguing to me.
Yeah.
I think there's ways to do an absolute Supergirl if you wanted to with this lore. I think here's the thing. I think next issue is going to answer a lot of questions.
Yes.
I am very content for as much exploration of Krypton as we get during all of this, because that's been just really, really interesting. I do like the backup with you and I are big wrestling fans, and AEW in particular. I like these little short vignettes that they're doing with AEW wrestlers.
Yes, me too.
In the back of them, because they're using top tier talent to do it. It's been pretty cool.
And it's neat that on AEW TV they're advertising the absolute comics.
Yeah. And DC Comics in general, aren't they advertising All In?
They're doing All In.
Yeah.
Our next discussion is on Absolute Wonder Woman. The writer is Kelly Thompson. The artist is Hayden Sherman. Covers by Hayden Sherman, Jordi Belair, Jim Lee, Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair, Wes Craig and Mike Spicer, Jeff Dekar and Dan Panossian. Colors by Jordi Belair. Letters by Becca Carey. The assistant editor is Ash Padella. And editor is Chris Conroy. And, of course, William Moulton Marston created Wonder Woman.
Now, when I say that the Absolute Superman was my favorite, I want to be very clear. I'm not diminishing the other ones. In particular, this book, just because I mentioned before, I'm a Batman guy, and I really enjoyed Batman. But Absolute Wonder Woman is a very, very good book. And the premise, it does what I loved about Absolute Superman. It takes the Wonder Woman lore and turns it on its head in all the right ways, while at the same time still giving us Wonder Woman. Superman still gives us Superman. They're just in a vastly different world. And this book really, first of all, it's a very pretty book. And the premise is another just like really intriguing premise that plays off of what if the gods got angry and did this?
Yeah.
And it really does change the game. Gateway City as a concept's pretty cool. Everything I'm seeing here is really awesome.
Now, something that caught my eye and again, this was on my art read through.
Okay.
And because first off, yes, I agree with you. I love this book, and my art read through caught a bunch of stuff. The opening page, I didn't catch it until later, was Sights to See, Molten Cove, and Gale Beach. I'm pretty sure that's Gale Beach. Right at the bottom. They kind of cut it off a little bit, but I was like, yeah, all right.
Yeah. That part's I like when they do that with creators in general.
Yes.
Like give namings to. We see that a lot in the Batman books as well. And I think it's a great idea just to honor the people that have made their mark on the characters. And that part is interesting. Seeing this floating upside down pyramid in the sky, for lack of a better way to put it, that's releasing demons over, Gateway City. And then that being our first foray into this Wonder Woman. Pegasus is not like warm and fuzzy.
No, Pegasus is a skull.
Yeah. And I like that.
Skeleton Pegasus.
Yeah, it's something that I really, really like. They've given her big swords. They've given her a darker look. But I like that underneath that is Diana still. And that's a hard balance to strike when you're doing something like this, because she is the presence that she evokes, and the whole way she dresses, the whole way she acts, because it's how she was raised. She was raised differently, but not raised to be a bad person. So she is Diana, and there's something inside her that is drawing her to be this person, and I like that. The premise is all working for me. I'm going to say I don't want this to be the main continuity. None of that is an insult. I actually want this to keep going as its own continuity. I don't need it. Like, I'm fine if they do eventual when somebody fixes the multiverse, that if they do an eventual crossover with them. But I'm cool with let these characters breathe. Let's have some fun with this.
100% agree. And again, like we talked about Superman, there were still those moments of Superman in him. We still have those same kind of moments with Diana.
Yeah.
Because again, one of my favorite Diana stories aren't just the ones where she beats people up. Right. Those are cool to see. They do a great job with it. I do love the fact that it's the compassion and the love that gives the true strength and the true being of the hero. You think back to when we had the talking gorillas, where they initially were, refugees from Grodd. They're a little bit lost and, they're following Grodd. They're following the wrong people. And instead of just beating them up, Diana gave them a purpose, gave them a reason, and actually treated them with honor and let them be honorable creatures. And they stopped fighting. And she stopped the fight, not beating them up. I do love that there's still glimpses of that kind of Diana in this. We still have some major butt kicking. As you said, comes flying in on the skeleton Pegasus, swinging a big old sword and knocking people down. Massive power, some really cool magic stuff that we've never really seen Wonder Woman use. She's, in the magic realm, but she's not a magic user. Well, this one is a magic user. Yeah. This one has that magic powers. She not only has the Amazon strength and, the warrior, but she's got that magic side to her. And I do love the fact that she's got that little bit of a difference to her because of that, because of her upbringing, and I was like, this is a really cool moment. And again, great opening with this one, a little bit different. It took us a while before we actually saw, Kal-El and Superman. This one, right out the jump, we're seeing Diana coming in, kicking butt and taking names. And I was like, yes. I love the fact that this one has a little bit of a different groove to it. This one has, a different fire, in the story. We're still seeing a really cool Wonder Woman. We're still seeing, Diana, and later on, by the end of this book, we really see more of Diana coming out. So it's like, I really love this.
Well, I like that they established very early on that this is still a princess with all these gifts: beauty, grace, compassion, kindness, wisdom. But the casting of the spell, that was the solution to this problem. Yeah. She cast a spell. And, I mean, it was totally badass in the way that she did it. But it's totally emphasizing the fact that she was raised in hell. And they flash us back right then and there to show us what that looks like. I mean, Cersei, to be the one that is raising Diana as a baby, was just really awesome, because it sets this Cersei on a very different path than she would have gone on, I think, otherwise, right? I mean,
yes.
She feels like I think the one that's being handed the baby is the Cersei we're always used to. And because of raising this child and loving this child, she becomes something different.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And again, the fact that you think back to some of the cool Wonder Woman Cersei stories we always see Diana trying to reach Cersei, trying to bring her around, like always calls her sister, even though she's Cersei, she's still Diana's sister. She's still trying to help her. We're seeing here what would have happened if the infant influence on Cersei, and I love the fact that as much as Diana is different in this world, Cersei has equally changed, and you needed to have that. And again, the meet with when Apollo first shows up, he's like, you may kneel, he's like, I'll stay standing, defiant as ever, Cersei is still Cersei, and giving the baby, she's like, what are you doing here? He's like, she's here now. We don't care what happens to her. And that for me was just a great, again, the Greek gods have always been written as just complete a-holes. They've always been just that, that level of, mess with the humans, really mess them up, and you could see them, we didn't see what exactly happened, but something went on with the Amazons where the Amazons probably wanted to live, and the gods said, no, we're going to make you suffer just because we can, because we are the gods. And I do love seeing just that level of, jerkness, again, with dropping off this baby on the Isle of Hell, in Cersei's prison. And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting about, is her quest going to be to free the Amazons? And what is that going to be like because of how they've been in prison, and what does, where does this end up going with her? And how soon is that going to be? Is that going to be early on, or is that something that they're going to build to eventually? I like that Cersei's putting down the baby and like just laying it on this rock and figuring like, okay, the snake's coming at it. Baby's kind of done for here until baby has other ideas and just picks up this demon snake and just tosses it. That was such a cool, like looking at it like it's a toy, like coo, boom. It was so cool.
And I did chuckle when they wrote yeet for when she threw the snake.
Yeah. It was cool. Then, seeing her later and just growing up in that environment where, again, we've got these tiny like demon lizards and things like that, blowing fire at her. And I like how it just does nothing. She grabs the thing and she's like, no. Yeah. It was so great seeing her scold this thing like it was a Muppet.
Well, scolds like a Muppet, gives it a kiss, and again, it's the love and the compassion of Diana. Instead of bopping it on its head, she's like, no, don't do that. That's not right, And then later on, you see the demon there. You see the snake with her. These are her. They become her friends now because she didn't kill them.
Yeah. And I like that Cersei's got to realize that all of her assumptions are ones where this kid's teaching her something new. Because she was assuming the kid's, she'll learn when she gets her hair singed. Well, no, it's the creatures learned. Because they had no choice but to. And one of my favorite lines is, how you fall in love with a child is by raising it. Yeah. And I really, as a kid who was adopted, I got to sit there and say, wow, man, did that hit home? Because I had two great parents who, were true parents because they raised me. And I was sitting there going, man, this is kind of neat. I get this is a very different Cersei because she was raising this child. There's that strong relationship there. Boy, those pages watching her go through this journey of life with Cersei were beautiful pages. I loved the gradual changes to that underground cave environment that they were living in Hell. Seeing time passage and just Diana becoming more verbal and seeing a Diana that's learning Cersei's way of life as well, which is sets a major twist off of that. But they're giving it a lot of substance, and that part I really, really like. This is a pretty book, And when you're doing books where you're kind of going into that magic territory, it's got to have a feel of this feels very much traditional warrior Wonder Woman, while at the same time having that right amount of fantasy that fits it being a magic, focus as well. They tread that balance so terrifically here. I love the fact that this feels like certain amount of Dungeons and Dragons or Hobbit or Shannara books and that type of thing. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I really like, and I was just really glad with the artistic choices as well as the dialogue choices in this. This is a very, very special book.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, you talked about how the house changes. When Cersei's initially there, it's just a cave. And then next panel, there's a little bit of a bed laid out. And there's more of some stuff on the wall, some bookcases. Just it's slowly turning into a home, to the point where at the end there's actually even carpentry on the ground and stuff like that. It shows again the evolution of Cersei, that the effect that Diana had on her, and it was a really cool. Just those were some of the neat moments that I was like, man, this is awesome. And just going back through on the art read-throughs, I loved these pages probably the best. Just looking at, going from panel to panel, saying, okay, what's changed here? What's changed here? And in the one panel, I see baby Pegasus, I think. It looks like a skull of it looks like the skeleton, but I can't see wings on it. So I don't know if that's the baby Pegasus that grows up or if that's what initially was that they turn into the Pegasus. I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about like a few pages back when she's a baby and she's going, grr, arr.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be Pegasus. Yeah. I don't know. We don't see if that is Pegasus. We don't see Pegasus again in those initial
other
pages.
Yeah.
But it's certainly intriguing. I like this whole thing. Raising a child is how you fall in love, but letting them go is how you prove your love.
Yeah.
And really, she's getting ready for the point that's coming, where she starts to reveal to her a little more of her background. I did like, they gave you like a certain amount of pages with the backstory, and then they flashed ahead to Gateway City now, which to me just totally worked, because I was ready to see more of current Diana. I think the piece that you've got, they struck a really good balance here. Again, you see her with her eyes, with that kind of paint covering her eyes and the red eyes. You got to make me believe that this is somebody who cares about people. Mm-hmm. And this, when she's talking to the soldier and saying, thank you, you should evacuate all civilians within a mile. And I like that you see her caring for others right from the get-go. What I don't want to see is, don't give me this warrior Wonder Woman that has no compassion. Right. Give me somebody whose world is different because of the fact that she was raised differently. Sure, give me those people. And I love every bit of that. I want this to be a different Gateway city because of the fact that this series is just different. And that all works for me. But I still got to feel like this is Diana. That's really critical for me on this one. In a way where I like that in this Absolute Superman, I kept making the mistake of calling him Clark. Even if we never get him as Clark, I really like that he felt like Kal-El in this world, being raised in this world. This does feel like Diana in this. And that Harbinger Prime, where she's getting ready to stand toe-to-toe with that, I was ready for a battle. We got to see the other magic one. I wanted to see a little bit more of what we get here with that battle. And her and Pegasus teaming up was really, really good in that.
Oh, God, yeah. And this, again, multiple panels really showing, multiple pages, showing the chaos, that beautiful chaos that is battle and that is combat. And I do like the fact that this book, it has a different groove to it than what we got with Superman in the fight sequences. Because, again, this is, Diana is more of, the swinging the mythical Athena blade, versus, how, Kal-El is on this world. So this, again, great fight sequence, great, just overwhelming odds, where you're just like, how is she going to do this? How can she beat this Harbinger Prime? And then all the Harbingers start coming after her again. So she's really outmassed, outgunned. It's just, yes, but it's that whole gut check time. It's that moment of the hero. And they did a brilliant job of doing the flashback again. As she's fighting this, and art team showing the movement as she's trying to dodge the eye blast, then dodging, then firing back, reflecting the blast back into it, dodging the other creatures, just doing everything to where she gets that won't knocked out of her. And then it goes back, to the back, and you really start seeing the final moments of her with Cersei, when she finally says, Amazon. And you're just like, oh, yes.
I like the use of the gauntlets and how we're still getting bracelets of sorts, if that makes sense. I like the look of them. I like, if it's a very, very different reason to have those things than we have before. But the fact that Cersei's trying to teach her about the Amazons and recognizing, I can't tell you this, but inside you, it's locked in there. You can tell me it. That was an interesting strategy that she put in there. I really enjoyed that.
Yes. And again, this was you can tell this is the long play on how getting Diana to who she is, what her people are about. This is probably right before she leaves the island.
Yeah.
This is right before she leaves. Because again, you look at just how much the home has developed. They've got wooden floors. They've got a nice fireplace going. They've got a bunch of stuff on the walls, all that kind of neat, cool stuff in the background. And as she's just talking to her about the nature of who the Amazons are. Why did the gods do this? Because they had a job to do. They protected the world from monsters. And the gods weren't happy with what they did. So the Amazons probably stood against the gods for some reason. And this is, she's like, say it, I'm an Amazon again, Amazon. And you can just get her pumped up to the point where we go back to present day where she gets up. She just got knocked flat on her butt, but she's not down for the count. And talk about just an epic speech before the fight.
Yeah.
I am Diana Themyscira, last of the Amazons, daughter of Cersei, princess of Hell, witch of the wild eye. And you will not have this world while I still draw breath. And I love just that moment. And just, again, the other cool part was
have we seen the wild isle in this? Am I missing that piece?
Which of the wild isle? That's the island.
Where they are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Because they're in Gateway City.
No. Where she and Cersei are. That was called the Wild Isle, I thought.
Where they were in Hell?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's the name of the island. The Wild Isle. Hold on.
Yep, it is. The Wild Isle of Hell.
Yeah.
That's right. So the Witch of the Wild Isle. Thank you. I was like trying to figure out where was the Wild Isle come from. It's the Wild Isle of Hell. Yeah. I kept linking that they were just in Hell. Right. I wasn't linking the fact that Hell has tourist destinations. So it was. I actually like that. I like that there's locations in Hell, which there's been lots of writing and literature around stuff like that, which is cool. I like how this is all playing out. Mm-hmm. The lasso is we don't know anything about it, do we?
This is a different. Well, in that last page where you have that cool monologue, you do have the stuff where she's like, "How do you prove your love to your child? You set them free." And arming her to the teeth with the greatest weapons imaginable. We know the sword is Athena blade, formed by Hephaestus. I'm assuming this lasso is also formed by him, which was where, the original lasso of truth is. This is probably not a lasso of truth. This is probably a lasso of pain or something like that. But you never know. It could still be the lasso of truth.
Sure.
We don't know what this is yet, but we know it's a massive weapon. Just like the wristbands, she doesn't have the pretty bracelets. She's got these battle arms. The bracelets that we're blocking. It's still the same kind of weapons forged. So I'm like, yes, show me more. What's this all about?
It's a great book.
We are Crystal Men from Mercury. We have no quarrel with you.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. We love having you part of our show. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. You prefer to contact us that way. RagingBullets.com is our show website. It feeds into X/Twitter and our Facebook fan page. We love to connect with you any way that you prefer to connect with us. We are proud to be part of a great Facebook group community. I want to thank everyone who posts articles and updates there. I'm always intrigued to see what's going on around the world of comics and pop culture. So thank you for everyone that posts over there. The About Us section is where you can find out how to connect with us on social media and gaming platforms. We want to connect with you in the ways that you like to connect with us. And you can hear me bi-weekly on Is It Jaws? That is a film review podcast co-hosted by Paul Spataro, who was kind enough to invite me to be a co-host on that wonderful show. We review movies doing the Jaws 1 through 4 scale. And we are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Aquaman #1, 50% off, only $199, as well as 40% off, on the various variant covers. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, we have Azadora graphic novel. Graphic knobber. What is a graphic knobber? Azadora graphic novel, volume 8, $16.99. Regularly 40% off, only $10.19. Justice League of America, the DC's finest. And I actually really love that they're putting these out at these extra discounts. This is The Bridge Between Earths, $39.99, regularly 55% off, only $17.99. These have got to be the crossover books, because I'm seeing the JSA on the cover of this one. Boy, those stories are important enough to me that I want to own them again in another way. Fantastic Four Omnibus Hardcover, Volume 5, $125, regularly 46% off, only $67.50. Two different cover choices. Green Lantern Corps by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, $150, regularly 50% off, only $75 for that great collection. Jill and the Killers trade paperback, $19.99, regularly 40% off, only $11.99. And finally, very highest possible recommendation to Scalped Omnibus Volume 1. You and I are both big fans of this series. $75 regularly, 50% off, only $37.50. Want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode, we are going to be back, and in a shorter period of time, we're going to talk about Absolute Batman #1 and 2. So we will see you sometime next week.
Bye!
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it? What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Jim,
it's right there.
Jim,
I don't know
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.